I don't know. Just I've been messing around with some stuff here on Zoom, and I subscribe to the professional package or whatever that I'm paying $15 a month for now, since I'm trying to do these interviews again. And because they only give you a 40-minute limit if you're doing it for free, depending on how many guests you have and whatever. So I figure I don't know how long this will go, but I'm sure it won't be too long. But it's just in case if we happen to, that it'll be okay anyway.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I'm happy to have you on, man. I'm really we've been looking forward to this for the last couple of weeks since we or since I sent you the email requesting an interview. I didn't think you get back to me right away.
Thrilled to be on with you. You're confusing me with someone who has somewhere else to be. I have nothing else better to do. I have something later on this afternoon, but right now I'm wide open, so all good. Comedians work an hour a night, so we have a lot of free time.
Oh yeah. Well, I figured so. I figured you're. I'm sure you're busier the guy than I am, obviously, because you're doing more other things that I've done probably in the last 6 months or whatever. But I appreciate having you on, and I'm going to give you a big introduction here, and we'll get going here.
Sure.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Frankie Slauson Show, and it is summertime, and this is the time where we just kind of like to kick back and have a little bit more fun than we do normally on a regular basis, just because we're using the word summer, and summer sounds fun. And what's more fun than talking to a comedian? We've talked to a bunch of comedians before in the past, like Michael Winslow and Dante and a few others that I don't remember, but there's a list anyway. There's just a big list. This guy here is somebody you probably, if you go on YouTube a lot, or if you go on Facebook, you're going to see a thing called the Shorts, and this is where I started to fall in love with this guy just because of all the stuff that I've seen online, and actually watching some specials that were recorded on YouTube that were whether they were okay to be recorded or not. I wanted to learn more about the guy, so I watched the entire specials and got to know about the breakout comedy star from America's Got Talent. I give you guys comedian Tom Cotter. Welcome to my show.
Welcome back, Cotter. I like it. Very nice.
Yeah, it has a good ring to it.
Those YouTube specials you referred to in the intro were non-sanctioned. Those
I would figure so. They seem like they're kind of like bootleg versions of what a professional setting would be like.
It happens. What are you going to do?
But I enjoyed that though. I mean, it's kind of fun to hear more shtick from you rather than just a couple 1 minute videos or shorts that I've seen floating around the interwebs anyway.
Yeah, I'm doing one that is sanctioned on the 27th of this month, June. So I'm filming a new special then. That one is sanctioned, so I know that it'll be out there in advance. So I will dress appropriately. But some of the ones, when you go to the Comedy Cellar in Manhattan now, they take your cell phone away from you because they don't want you to film the comedians. Dave Chappelle, and Amy Schumer, I think, were the first two to demand that when they got on those stages, because people film you all the time now. And if you're trying new material, Sean, what if it sucks? What if it lays an egg? You don't want that out there on social media. So that's why we go to these clubs to work our stuff out. You got to try it in front of a live audience. And then some meathead, doesn't listen to the rules, records it and puts it out on social media. But it's all exposure. I'm not bitter about it. I'm happy with it. It's fine.
I figure you would love the exposure no matter what because you put yourself on TV. So I mean, if you didn't like that, you would have never went on America's Got Talent.
Yeah, I'm a whore, so what the hell? I wear that proudly.
Hey,
I think Madonna taught us that any publicity is good publicity. So.
Hey, I'm a whore too when it comes to media and stuff. I'm a pop culture guy. Even though I'm in Minnesota, but I love everything about pop culture.
You're in Minnesota. You got a Kentucky headhunting shirt on. So what's that
Oh, I know some of the members of the Kentucky Headhunters band. Is that somebody you're familiar with at all for music?
I do love music, and I noticed behind you over your left shoulder you have two electric guitars being played, which I'm a fan of. I love that stuff. So I don't play well, but I do play. So
And then you notice that, kind of mixed up with more pop culture stuff. I got the Stranger Things stuff, on the wall, and
yeah, I see that over
because
your right shoulder. Absolutely.
gotta have a mix of everything. That's why I don't want to scare anybody when they come on the show thinking that what type of thing did I get invited to?
It's just a smorgasbord. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, for me, I've always just loved, like I said, entertainment. I've been doing this since 2006. I started out in radio, and then I just, went into podcasting and stuff. And most of the time, it's all just been volunteer, stuff. I don't really make any money doing it. Unlike you, where I'm sure you make, a good living being a comedian, or else you probably wouldn't do it, but I'm sure you had rougher days back in the early days before you finally went on the road and everything.
I tell everybody, Sean, that comedy is a dream job if you dream of poverty and rejection. So it's not an easy road to hoe. I have three sons, and I've told them all they can do it as a hobby, but I don't want them to make a career out of it because I know how difficult it can be. And their mother my wife is also a comic, so they're
Yeah.
hearing it from both of us.
And that's kind of neat, because I didn't know if that was actually when I saw some of the clips of you with your wife, if that was with your wife or whatever that I've seen the clips on. It was hard to tell, like, because I don't know a whole lot about you at all, but I didn't know if that was just somebody that you were just like pretending to be your wife, or
No,
just if it was your wife, because that's kind of a cool kind of connection, just to meet somebody that you have the same interest in.
yeah, it's funny that you say the pretending because she pretends to be single a lot. I'm happily married, or at least she tells me I am. So, and we've been married for will be June 30th. It'll be 22 years in a row, and we were dating for 6 years before that. So we've been together for a long time.
Ah,
A comedy
well,
couple, and there aren't that many of us out there. We're an endangered species. There aren't that many married comedy couples these days.
well, I think that's just awesome because then you got the support of your wife, and she got the support of you, and that's how you make everything work. I suppose once the kids started getting in the family and everything, it was harder to do stuff together. I suppose.
Yes, yeah, and people love us to do things together. They love when we do the comedy team thing, especially like the older people who remember Catskills, because that you had a lot of married comedy couples. You had Lucy Ball and Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. You had Burns and Allen, Nichols and May. There were a lot of them, and so people get nostalgic for that, and they ask us to do that. But we make more money when we work individually because she headlines places and I headline places. So and then we meet up back at home. So absence makes the heart grow fonder for us when we're on the road, and then when we're home, we get to hang out together. And for whatever reason, it works for 22 years.
And that's pretty neat. I mean, it's like that love story that you read in books, pretty much. Kind of. I think, or whatever. I guess.
It's worked for us. It's it's a tough business. I'll tell you what. During the pandemic, we were both unemployed. We couldn't do anything, obviously. So we hung out a lot together, and that will test a marriage when
Oh,
you're not
absolutely.
on the road. When you're always there. I mean, you're constantly there. That really tests your ability to move forward, and we survived that test. So all is well.
Well, that's good. And what I like about a guy like you, Tom, it's like you're not like as far as I know anyway. We don't really hear any like scandals about Tom Cotter. Like what's going on with Tom Cotter these days? What's you know like what's he doing lately or whatever? We don't hear those. Like we're not going to hear you on the National Enquirer or CNN that you are involved in some scandal or anything like that. You seem like a pretty well mannered man, we'll say.
There are two reasons you don't hear them. One, I'm pretty boring, and two, nobody really gives a crap. They don't
Huh.
care what the hell I'm up to. But that's fine. If they did, they certainly could find out. I'm all over social media, and I'm, very. I have a young lady who handles that for me. My wife and I have a social media goddess because we're too old to handle it, and she's really good, and so she keeps our finger on the pulse and our fans' fingers on the pulse. So it's good.
Well, you seem like you'd be a fun person to hang out with. That's why when I started watching your comedy bits, I'm just like, well, the stuff that this guy says, and then he just kind of goes into like a little tangent and sees that people are paying attention to what he's saying, and it's just I like that style of comedy, that style of improv or whatever it is that you're trying to do to get a laugh out of people, I mean it works. At least it's worked for me anyway.
Well, you have
Yeah.
impeccable taste in comedy. I meant to tell you that. Yeah, it's been good for us. I've been at this for 35 years, so I've kind of weeded out the stuff that doesn't work and kind of honed in on the stuff that does work, and it's been good. It's paid our bills for a long time, and we love that we are able to live in a country where we can work an hour a night telling jokes and still be able to put our kids through school. So, God bless America.
Yes, yes. God bless America. I try not to be too political on my show, but since it's my show, I can pretty much do pretty much whatever I want or whatever. But I just, I don't know. I mean, because I've also seen you on what was it, just a few months ago? You were on a newscast talking about something or
Newsmax,
whatever.
and I did Tucker Carlson a couple times,
Yeah.
and Hannity. But I don't, and I used to do a lot on Fox News because they had a show called Red Eye late at night. That was Greg Gutfeld's show.
Oh,
And
okay.
his show a few times. So people mistakenly think that I'm a, arch conservative comic. I'm really, I think I'm pretty straight down the middle, and that's how I like to present myself. I don't want to alienate anybody. I'm just trying to make people laugh. So I'm not bashing people over the head with my politics generally. I, like everyone, have opinions, but
Sure.
I'm not up on my soapbox when I'm on stage. As you've seen my act, it's very silly. It's non sequitur. It's called misdirection is kind of the style, and it's just a lot of one-liners kind of jumbled together into some fun. And I don't want to make any political statements. I'm really
Oh,
not
yeah.
change anyone's mind. I'm just trying to make them laugh.
Well, and that's just the thing about it. Because I mean, everybody has the right to their own opinion about whatever they want to talk about. But I feel like nowadays people just feel like everybody has something to say, so we're gonna blast you for saying whatever you say, even if it's just an opinion.
You have no
Doesn't matter if
idea
it's
how
political or
accurate that is. People, these trolls. Seinfeld wrote an op-ed to the New York Times saying he never wants to work at a college again because these college kids show up waiting for you to utter that one syllable that's going
Sure,
to send them into a tizzy, and then they get triggered, and then they go on social media and eviscerate you, and then people who weren't even in the same state or country jump into the mix because they're trolls and they have nothing else to do. So,
sure.
it's easy for Seinfeld to say he doesn't want to work a certain venue. He doesn't need to. He goes home every night and sleeps on a mountain of cash. But the rest of us, we have to go and do these gigs, and it's gotten very difficult in the last couple of years. It was tough for us during COVID because we couldn't work. And then when we got out of COVID, the whole woke thing is happening, and they keep
Sure,
goalposts on what you can say and what you can't say. And the nature of comedy is to mock things. It's to lampoon things. And so, I always start off my act making fun of myself first. I do a good 10 or 15 minutes doing what they call self-deprecating humor, making fun
sure.
of myself, and I think that tells the audience subconsciously that hey, he can take a punch. Then I start punching out. I'm like, if look, I just made fun of myself for 15 minutes. Now I'm going to talk about something else. Some comics come out on stage and don't do the self-deprecating thing and just start bashing things, and some people get a little
Sure.
off-put by it. But it's kind of the climate we live in right now, and you have to deal with it.
Yeah, like the whole Chris Rock thing, I think it's kind of has been overdone. And I'm sick of hearing about it. I mean, you got slapped. Oh well, get over it. I know it was a big deal, but it's like, do we really care now after 2 years or whatever or a
But,
year?
but at the time, that was startling because, in the past, if you didn't like a joke, you just wouldn't laugh. I mean, you
Yeah.
might even boo or hiss or something, but you wouldn't come up on stage and smack the comic. You said it. So that kind of, and as comedians, we all watch that in horror because that shows the rest of the world, hey, if you're triggered or something, this is a course of action you can take. And that's not what we want. So when I am on stage, I always tell the audience that I have two things: pepper spray and monkeypox. So hopefully they won't come up and put their hands on me. And we haven't had that issue yet, thank God.
Well, do you ever do like little meet and greets at all, just for the fans that really want to meet you and everything?
All the time. And the number one comment I always get, Sean, is you were taller on TV, which is perfect. Really is. It's passive aggressive. It's their way of saying, wow, you're short. But they don't want to say that. So they go, oh, you were taller on TV. So, but yeah, I always love to meet the audience. Again, they butter my bread. So I want
That's
to,
right.
I know some comics like to be introverted and not talk to the crowd, but I love it. I love it when I'm on stage. I like to engage the audience. And when I'm done with the show, I like to shake hands and meet people and, just tell them I appreciate them coming out to the show.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's learn a little bit about the early days of Tom Cotter, because I always like to ask my guests, like, because you always kind of wonder where, like, what happened, like what like when you growing up, like you had all these things that you could be. Why did you become what you became? So I'm going to ask you the same question. Why comedy?
Well, when I first got into show business, I was quiet and shy because I was a mime, and then I had to quit that because it was racist because I was wearing whiteface. So I
Sure,
got
sure,
rid of
sure.
that, and sorry, I'll stop doing shtick. I'll tell you the
No,
truth.
no, it's fine.
I'm the youngest of six kids in an Irish Catholic family, and anyone that knows that world knows that it's kind of dysfunctional. And I needed attention because my parents had five kids before me, and my mom had two miscarriages, so technically seven before me. And
Sure.
so, I wanted to do anything I could to get attention. And so, if that meant shocking my family at the kitchen table by saying something inappropriate, then hell yes, I was going to do that. And so the same stuff that got me sent to the principal's office now pays my bills. And so that's kind of how it all happened. When you're the youngest, my wife is also the youngest of four kids in her family. And I haven't done an official study on this, but so many of my friends who are comics, working comics and comedy writers, were the youngest in their family. And I think the common denominator is that they were the youngest, so they were kind of the ham, the person who constantly needed attention, and that's kind of how we got it by being irreverent and in our minds funny. Sometimes our parents disagreed, but yeah, that's what I did. So I started that. I started in Rhode Island. There was one comedy club in Rhode Island called Periwinkles. I went, did an open mic there. It went horribly wrong. I did about 10 jokes. Two of them worked, eight of them crashed and burned. And I ran away and stuck my head in the sand like an ostrich for a while. And then I said, well, I got to get back in the saddle and try it again. So about 6 months later, I came back to the same club. A couple of those jokes worked combined with the two that worked originally. Now I had a couple minutes, and then you just build on your act and your repertoire. And over 35 years, we've got quite an arsenal stockpiled, and you pull out different material for different audiences. You don't tell the same jokes on a cruise ship you do at a comedy club, and you don't tell the same jokes at a corporate event that you do at a college. They don't want to hear the same things, drunk roommate. So yeah, that's just kind of how we did this, and that's how I started.
Now, do you remember some of your earliest material, like that kind of that got people interested in what you were about?
Yeah, I was filthy when I started. I really was dirty. I 15 minutes and it was all filthy. And there were two other guys in Boston at the time. I started in Providence, but after a certain amount of time, you realize there's only one comedy club in Providence, and there were 10 up in Boston, and there were probably 50 in New York at the time. So I went to Boston first for about 6 years, and then I moved to New York. In our business, you have to end up eventually in New York or LA, kind of. So we
Sure.
chose New York. It's closer to our home base. My wife is also from New England. So, but in those 6 years in Boston, I was hanging out with Joe Rogan and a guy named Mike McCarthy, and we were all pretty edgy, dirty comics. We were young, filthy comics, and some of the headliners pulled an intervention on us and said, "Hey, you guys, here's the deal. You seem like decent guys, but no one wants to work with you because you're filthy, and we don't want to go up and have to dig out of that hole. So, uh, if I were you, I would change it up a little bit because A, more comics, more headliners are going to want you to open for them, and B, you're going to open up more doors for you because there are a lot of places you can't work if you're filthy. You can't do corporate events if you're filthy. A lot of colleges won't have you if you're filthy. You can't work at country clubs generally. Some clubs are more PG and cleaner clubs, and they won't work you. So I took that as wisdom, and I thanked them for sharing that with me, and I cleaned it up. And Rogan, to his credit, said, "Go to hell," and stuck by his guns. And now look at him; his career is 10 times better than mine will ever be. But I say God bless him. He stuck by his guns, and he's had a very good career. And I took the advice, and I've had a decent career. And I like being able to work everywhere. I like working all those venues. I always say it's C's. It's corporate, college, cruise ship, casino, and comedy club. And they pay in descending order there. The clubs pay the least, the corporations pay the most, and everything else in between can pay the bills when you're not working at a club, you're working on a ship, you're not working on a ship, you're working at a college. So I wanted to be able to work all those venues, and you have to be somewhat family friendly to do that.
Sure, sure. And I suppose because of what type of dirty material that you were presenting at the time, you had inspiration for that. You had Andy Dice Clay, you had Sam Kinison, you had George Carlin, Robin Williams, Richard Pryor. I mean, Rodney Dangerfield. It's hard to not be inspired by those people and try to be your own version of those people that
And
people
you
probably
just
aren't ready
mentioned
for.
all of them. Those were all my heroes. And in particular, Dangerfield, Carlin, and Pryor. Those three are the three that I had their
Mine
albums
too.
when I was a kid. So that tells you how old I was. I had literally their record albums, and I would pay them off a record player, and I knew them verbatim. I could recite Carlin's Indecent Exposure album cover to cover uh, as a 10-year-old kid. So those are the people I really loved and looked up to. But even then, I learned the business, and even those guys, when they did TV, they had to be clean. And when I did America's
Sure.
Got Talent, I had to be clean. And I did Last Comic Standing, it had to be clean. It's primetime network television. I've done the late night shows too, and you can be a little edgier because it's later in the night. It's not prime time, but still, even then, they pull the reins in on you. And now with the whole woke thing, the reins are pulled on you for whatever, no matter what you do. So it's crazy.
So I suppose like a George Carlin wouldn't work in today's society.
Well, a lot of people think that, and they think that Dice Clay would have been lynched at this point. There's no way he could have done his stuff. Yeah, comedy's changed, but again, I'm showing my age, but Archie Bunker probably couldn't last today. All in the Family was the #1 rated sitcom, and that show today would be considered racist, misogynist, triggering for any number of reasons. So that could never be on the air. It's amazing how this, the cycle. We're hoping that pendulum swings back to normalcy because it's kind of a crazy time right now.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I miss.
Give
Oh,
me 1 second. I'm just going to shut this door because
that's fine.
I'm on a Zoom, everybody.
And we're just here with Tom Cotter,
And he's back.
legendary comedian. I say legendary comedian because I'm just so happy to have you on my show. I mean, this is
I'm
like I
happy to
said,
be here.
been a couple weeks that I've been waiting, but it's all good. I've talked to a lot of different comedians in the past, and I think my favorite of all time was Michael Winslow.
Oh, he's great.
And we've talked twice, and I think the second interview was better than the first because I really got to know the guy more in depth, in the second interview. And that guy, you talk about a guy who's multi-talented. I mean, holy crap! Do you have any other talents other than telling jokes, or is that kind of the main thing that you're known for?
I play the ukulele, I play the guitar, I juggle, and I dabble in ventriloquism. Have I ever taken any of those on stage? No, I have not. Yeah, I just like being a monologist when I'm on stage. Those things are kind of fun activities, but I've never ever taken them on stage. You know what, Sean? A couple times I felt like I wish I had a guitar. Like the crowd was really horrible.
Sure.
Or something was bad because you can chew the clock with a guitar. Adam Sandler famously this is 20 years ago, had two different contracts to do a college. He was $30,000 per show without the guitar, and 35,000. No, I'm sorry, 30,000 with the guitar, 35,000 without it. And his theory was he could just do song parodies and kill half the show playing his guitar. And so he said, well, that's more fun for me, so I'll charge less for that. But if they wanted him without the guitar just to do stand up, he was more expensive.
Sure.
Because it's nice to have that crutch up there, but I prefer just telling jokes.
Well, geez, $35,000 is still a lot of money for one person. I don't care how big you are.
He's a lot more expensive now.
And not to get too personal, but I mean, like, are you pretty affordable for most people that hire you, or do you have a pretty good rate?
I'm in a range, and people call. I have a team. They call an agent and a manager, and they take all that. I'm good at telling jokes. I think I'm pretty good at telling jokes. I'm horrible at the business end, and I don't want to be that guy. So, like every talent and their representation, you have a good cop, bad cop thing. And I want to be the guy who's going to show up and tell jokes and make people laugh. That's my part of the business. And my manager, to get his commission, has to earn that commission by, getting me the most I can get for the gig. It's kind of a supply and demand thing. But we always negotiate. When I do a charity event, I charge less than I do for a corporate event, obviously, and that's how we give back.
I suppose in the early days it was just like $50 a show, $100 a show if you're lucky, because you're learning the ropes and you're learning everything.
Yeah, you got to pay your dues. You got to scratch and claw. When I started, I would drive. I was living in Boston, and I would drive 5 hours to Burlington, Vermont, for $50 to do a gig.
Jeez.
5 hours. The gas is going to cost you more than 50 now. So I would just do it for the stage time, and then you hook up with a couple of headliners that like you, and you like them, and then they say, "I'll take you on the road with me," and that's how you kind of break your. I don't want to use that term, and that's how you get. That's how you kind of get used to the whole being on the road thing, the whole comedy dynamic, and you decide whether or not that's a lifestyle that you can handle. And I've been handling it for 35 years, so yeah, I like it.
Are you somebody who's traveled the entire, I would say probably the entire world, but I mean, most of the United States, Canada, Mexico,
Yeah,
Hawaii, somewhere around
having
there?
done cruise ships, you go to you go to a lot of places, but I performed in Beijing a couple times, Shanghai, Hong Kong probably 10 times, Macau, Singapore, England, Pakistan, Israel. Yeah, I've been all over the
It's,
place. I've been at it a long time. And then when I used to do Comics on Duty, it was called, which is an offshoot of the USO, I would do a lot of military bases all over the country.
oh,
And
sure.
then I was in the college market for many, many years. And when you do colleges, you have to do them everywhere. So Alaska to Hawaii to everywhere in between. The only state I haven't told jokes in yet is Montana. It's the only one
Oh,
I haven't been to yet. I've been to every other state, and I've told jokes in every other state. So I just have to get to Montana and bang that out at some point.
and I suppose Minnesota you've been to many times, and North Dakota, South Dakota, because that's kind of my area right around here, kind of
Yeah,
it's more
that
northern
whole
Minnesota.
region. Yeah, there's a
Oh,
thing called the Upper Great Lakes in NACA, which is North American Campus Association, and it's or National Campus Activities, National Association Campus Activities, it's NACA, and they're the big group that brings in entertainment to all the colleges.
oh,
And so when you do that region, the Upper Midwest, I think it's called, or Great Lakes or whatever it's called, you do that whole area. So you do like St. Cloud State and
all right.
all the names escape me. I've done God 300 colleges or something
It
over that.
just seems like when a lot of people come to like the Minnesota and stuff, they always forget about other parts of the state. They always focus on Minneapolis or St. Paul. Even a lot of artists are like that nowadays. They'll only go to like more southern Minnesota's areas and then the northern parts. We do have venues up in the northern parts too, and stages, little festivals, here and there. But it seems like a lot of big neighbors only care about where they're gonna get the most people.
Well, they go to the major metropolitan areas because that's generally where the most venues are, or the biggest venues. But that's why I love doing colleges because there are colleges. You do these community colleges. You do a noontime show at some school that's up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, or in the boonies of I don't know, Iowa. You go to places that you normally haven't been, and you end up having a great time. And I love that stuff. Alaska, I did Nome, Alaska, and those people were just starved for entertainment. They just wanted live entertainment, so they were thrilled before you even uttered your first joke. They liked you, and then you end up having a great night, and you come out at the end, and you do body shots off of each other, and it's still light out. And what's not to love about that? It's perfect.
Must have some crazy times in Alaska.
Oh yeah, those people they are crazy, but I love them.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now you were talking about you said you're doing a special coming up. I had no idea until you mentioned about it that you were planning to do something.
They were planning it, and then all of a sudden the Writers Guild went on strike. So the
Oh
writers
yeah,
went on strike, and now I'm a SAG and AFTRA guy, which is Screen Actors Guild and American Federation of Television Radio Artists, and so we just went on strike. We just authorized the strike yesterday, so we're all on strike now, and so the networks now are clamoring for content. They already were kind of looking for content, but they're really looking for it now because the writers are on strike and they have to do reruns. All the late night shows now, Fallon, Kimmel, all those are doing reruns. And
sure.
so the producer of these specials said, let's move it up because they need them now. So we're banging them out all in the month of June and early July. Mine is June 27th. and it's I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great. We're going to do two a night, two different comics, same audience at a place called the Crossroads in Jersey, and the guy who's selling them at the end hasn't told us where they're going to be sold yet. They're going to try to sell them to obviously Netflix, Amazon, Showtime, etc. And he's confident somebody will nibble on him, and then we'll see what happens. The only special I have airing now is on Comedy Central, and it's only a half hour. So this
Sure.
is more of an hour, and it'd be more fun, and it would be sanctioned, unlike the one
Yeah,
I will actually get compensated for.
no bootlegging, unless somebody downloads a copy of it or whatever, I
Which is
guess.
fine. I don't care.
Yeah. No, that's awesome because I was always kind of wondering, like why aren't there more Tom Cotter specials? When you've been doing this for a long time and then you get noticed because of a big competition, and then it doesn't matter about if you won or if you lost. We obviously know what happened, but like, you're still in the business. You should be having like by now you should have had like 20 specials at least, you figure. Be like
Well,
George Carlin.
yeah, he was the most prolific. A lot of people don't know that, but he did 14 on HBO, 14
Yep.
specials. And if you think about that, that's 14 hours. He did an hour each time. 14 hours of gold comedy material is so incredibly difficult. I think the next one is Robert Klein. He's got like 8 of them. So that's
Sure.
still impressive. 8 hours of comedy material on one network is pretty impressive.
Oh,
Carlin
absolutely.
blew everybody away. He was just so prolific a writer and so great that he's a legend for a reason.
They made a box set of all his stuff here just like a couple years ago or during the pandemic, and I bought a copy of it, so it has all the specials, everything that he's pretty much done up until he passed away and everything, plus a documentary. And then he did a documentary on HBO Max not too long ago about his life and everything.
Yeah,
You
Kelly
think?
Carlin, his daughter, is such a sweetheart, and she donated all of his archives to the National Comedy Center, which is a brand new, state of the art, unbelievable place. And if your listeners can get there, you should see it. They're trying to do a triangle. It's right near the Football Hall of Fame, which is in Canton, Ohio, and the Baseball Hall of Fame, which is in Cooperstown, New York. And if you go right in between them and a little south is Jamestown, New York. It's the birthplace of Lucille Ball, Lucy, and they put the National Comedy Center there. They're not calling it a Hall of Fame, but it is basically a Hall of Fame. And there's a whole wing for Carlin. Carlin has his own little section,
Yeah.
and it's really, really impressive. Years ago, when I was first starting out, I sent a cassette tape. This will tell you how long ago it was. A cassette tape to George Carlin, to Johnny Carson, and to Rodney Dangerfield. Those are the 3 that I sent. And I never heard from any of them. 6 months after I sent it, Carlin called me and left me a message on my answering machine. And he didn't need to do that. He didn't know who the hell I was. I was an open mic comic at the time. I sent him a cassette. I got a book that had addresses of the stars, and his happened to be accurate, and it ended up in his hands. 6 months later, he left me a message. Thank God I wasn't home, and I still have the recording. And I treasure it, and it's him being really supportive, saying, "Hey Tom, I got your message. Great stuff. Let me know if I can ever do anything for you." And then I asked him a favor later, like 4 years later. I needed to get into a comedy club in New York City called the Comic Strip, and I knew that they loved him. And the guy running it said, "No, I can't. I can't even audition you. I have enough short, white, middle-aged guys," which is what he said to me. And so I said, "Okay." So I called Carlin again, and I said, "Hey, you don't remember me, but I sent you a cassette, and you were nice enough to call me back. If you could mention to Lucian, the guy who runs the Comic Strip, that I don't suck, that would be great." And literally an hour later, the phone rang, and Lucian said, "I got you an audition tonight at the Comic Strip. I don't know how you know George Carlin, but come on in tonight." And I could have read the phone book at that point, and he still would have passed me, and I would have been in the club just because Carlin called on my behalf. And again, he didn't need to do that. That's how nice a guy he was. He was just
Wow.
so I hold him in the highest regard, on stage and off. Just a great guy, and I will treasure that recording for the rest of my life.
That's awesome. That's a story I've never heard before. Well,
And
this is
yeah,
our first
whenever
time
I share
talking,
that
so
story, I'm sorry to interrupt, but whenever I
yeah.
share the story, other comics say I have a very similar story. So I have like 3 other comics that say something very similar. I have one guy who was working at a tiny little room off the strip in Las Vegas, and Carlin was at like the Mirage, I think, and he met him in line at a buffet and said, "Hey, I'm a big fan, George. I've followed you my whole life." And he goes, "Really? You're a comic?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm just working at this crappy little room off the strip." And Carlin said, "Can you come by my show tonight and watch my set and give me some pointers?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, but I'm a low on the told him, he goes, "I don't care. You're a comedian. I want your input." And after he watched his show, George took him out to a diner and they dissected George's new jokes that he had come out. And this comic was like, "I can't believe I'm helping George Carlin critique his material." But that's the kind of guy he was. He never forgot where he came from. Great dude.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, you don't hear that much about other comics and stuff, you know. I mean, I'm sure Ronnie Dangerfield was inspiration too because he had his own nightclub and he helped a lot of people get into the business and whatnot. So I would say probably him and maybe Robert Williams were also, you know, good for probably that too, maybe.
Yeah, Dangerfield was a one-liner guy, and I'm kind of a one-liner guy. And one of the first clubs to use me in Manhattan was Dangerfield's. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, the pandemic cost two of our clubs. We lost Caroline's and we lost Dangerfield's. But the Dangerfield's isn't torn down yet. The building's still there, the facade and everything. And there's two headshots in the window. One is Quentin Heggs, a very funny comic everyone calls Q, and me. We're the two pictures that are still in the window. So people will walk by that. It's been closed for over a year now. They'll walk by and see the headshots and take pictures and send them to me on social media and say, "Are you headlining at a club that's closed now?" I'm like, "They're lazy and they haven't taken the headshot down."
You'd be like, absolutely, I'm headlining you. Well, how come you didn't know this already?
I loved Rodney though. Rodney's club was on 61st and First in Manhattan, and right around the corner was Scores, the famous strip club. And so Rodney and the strippers knew each other very well. And so the strippers would always come over to the comedy club and watch the shows, and everything was it was surreal, amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
It's a
awesome.
good time.
So I wonder if we ever will ever see like a Tom Cotter book or a Tom Cotter documentary or somebody has to do something about your life eventually, I would say, you know. That would be
Hope
exciting.
so. Yeah, somebody might eventually. We'll see what happens.
You haven't planned that though. You haven't you're not ready for that yet.
Not yet. No.
Oh, all right. Well, that's okay. Well, I tell you what, Tom, I appreciate just the fact of chatting with you, man. This has been awesome.
This was a
I'll never
blast.
forget
I
it.
enjoyed this. I do a lot of these, and this one was fun. I appreciate you having me on, and I hope your audience enjoyed it.
Oh, I think they will. And if they want to see you on more things or social media wise, I see you got your background or your thing in the
Oh, yeah.
background.
Tell everybody. There it is. Yeah, I'm a whore. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty easy to find on social media, and my website, of course, is tomcotter.com. I got a book called Bad Dad, and if you have someone you're thinking of for Father's Day, you can get that on Amazon. And people should come out and see me when I come through their cities and towns.
Well, if you're ever in the Grand Forks or Fargo, North Dakota area, I'll have to look you up because, you know, that's where I'm close to those areas.
Well, lift the restraining order, and I'll be there immediately.
All right. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. You
Thank
take
you. I
care.
really appreciate it. Farewell.
Bye bye.